You may have a leadership problem. This is a little bit of a personal one, but hopefully it helps you. A few years ago, 3, 4-ish, I was not in the best headspace. There's a lot going on in my world, a lot of dramatic changes and hard things, and Wizard Academy was not getting my best headspace either. And I found myself in this position where I felt like, it's really like 3 years ago, where I really felt like every moment I was out here at Wizard Academy, I was on my own, out on a limb, working my ass off. Nobody had my back. If I looked away from something for 10 minutes, it didn't get done. And so if anything that needed to get done out here, I had to be the one to spearhead it, push it, make sure it happened, followed through. My people were just not finishing things and dropping the ball, and we weren't equally, like, we weren't all pulling in the traces. I felt like I was pulling in the traces, and everyone else was sort of being drug around by me a little bit. It was right after I stepped back partially from being involved at Crowded Barrel, but before I had fully left Crowded Barrel and Tribe. And I'd refocused a lot more of my energy into the Academy, and I just felt like I was constantly frustrated. This nagging feeling that people weren't doing their jobs. I was the only one getting things done around here. And son of a bitch, I'm tired. And because it happened along with a whole bunch of other things that were really hard and complicated, I was a stress case. And anxious and easy and a little snippy all the time. For about 3 months, when it really came to a head, I just put my head down and plugged away. And then one day I was sitting working on something, and I called my friend Pegeen, who's brilliant and great at leadership and employee development and culture and things like that. Also on the board of directors at Wizard Academy. And also a friend, which helps. And I just whined and complained about the whole thing for like an hour. Just a woe is me session. And it was as I was venting that I realized how much I was carrying emotionally. Not, like how much I was holding. And I finished, and I took a breath, and she had done all the proper empathetic, like, oh yeah, that must be tough. And then I took a breath, and she said, let me ask you this question, Daniel. Do you think your employees or your people are lazy? And I was like, no, definitely not. And she said, do you think they're incompetent? And I said, no, definitely not. And she said, do you think there's anybody currently in a position that doesn't belong at Wizard Academy and needs to be moved on to something else? And I said, no, I don't think so. I mean, when I think about it on the balance of things, I think everyone's fully capable of doing the job that their title is responsible for. And she said, well, then, Daniel, it sounds like you don't have an employee problem. It sounds like you have a leadership problem. Oh. And that landed hard. I was like, come on, this phone call's not fun anymore. I called the bitch and vent and had somebody be like, yeah, that's bullshit. They should get their act together. And then you're telling me that turns out I have a me problem? Dang it. And I'll tell you the rest of that in a second. But first, we're going to drink Balcones. Why? Because I want to. So many of the things that we're drinking most recently I've done before, but not very recently. And I'm excited about this one because Lineage is one of my all-time cornerstone favorite Balcones releases. And the first time I ever tried Lineage, it blew my mind. It was unlike any other Balcones release that I'd ever tried. It was just a glorious explosion of fruit and subtlety and delicate. And so I always had it. And we ran out of it in the vault, and I bought a replacement bottle, and I was about to just put it in the vault when I was like, hey, I'm going to talk about this one on the channel again. Because this one is from March 2024, and it was blended by Emma and the whole team. The whole team was involved. But this is one of the blends that Emma has done in the last 3 years that she's been working at Balcones, more than 3 now. And so I'm getting to drink Emma's handiwork, and that's kind of fun. So keep in mind, my fiance works at Balcones. I consider several of the humans at Balcones true friends of mine. And so there's no planet where this is an objective review. There's just not one. I'm going to have to account for everything that I say tonight when I get home. Or actually, the night after this video airs. So I called him and said, tell me about this blend, which is SML 23-1 parenthesis 15. She said, this is a mix of a whole bunch of different whiskeys, barrels. It's Texas barley. It's Golden Promise Scottish barley. It is a mix of new oak and used oak. The used oak is some of their own Balcones ISC barrels, Independent State of Cooperage, some Kentucky bourbon used barrels, and then virgin oak. And the barrels themselves are a mix of French oak, European oak, and American oak. The base is 3 with some varying barrels in there that could be 4 to 5 years old, but the majority of this is 3-year-old malt. Emma said probably somewhere between 50 and 100 barrels. She didn't remember off the top of her head, but it was a bigger batch. And she also said this is her favorite one to blend, well, in recent. This has been one of her favorites to blend because it's so complicated, it's like a puzzle, and you're working with so many different flavors that getting them to all play together and recreate lineage is this artwork puzzle. And Emma loves puzzles, and she loves blending, so this is really the best of everything. This nose, I could smell it the whole time I was talking. You pick it up, it is molasses, pipe tobacco, and fruit. It is a big bowl of ripe fruit, and then around the edges, pipe tobacco, aromatic pipe tobacco, and molasses. And then this sort of black currant, almost black, like, not black tea. What is it that's in Earl Grey bergamot? There's an almost like little tickling of bergamot somewhere in there. But it's so fruity. I mean, that's almost like, yeah, God, orchard. Oh, man. And it drinks dense, molassesy sweetness, drizzled over overripe fruit, slight dry wood notes. It's soft and approachable, but it's not boring. It's got a lot of complexity. 47%. And you could just drink all day. Just all day you could just drink that. On the rocks it goes great, I'm just saying. I'm trying to look at, there's something that's lingering and it might be that tea note. There's a heat that crawls through that threatens to become peppery and never does, and instead feels like the fruit is hot, for lack of a better explanation. And then it's really creamy. Man, that's so good. It's relentlessly good, that lineage. Man, what a great malt. Okay. So going back to my, shame. Pegeen then announces that probably the problem is me. And she started asking me more questions. And I realized a few things. When I first got to Wizard Academy, I was the only paid employee on Wizard Academy staff. This campus is 20 acres. And it was me and 1.5 people. And by that I mean one person who turned all the rooms and cleaned them in between classes, one person who only helped me set up food at meal times, and then I did everything else. I cleaned the tower, the bathrooms, I turned and washed dishes, I ran the website, talked to the students, I hosted until the wee hours of the morning. I did everything that we now have a team of 4 or 5 people doing. I did with me and one other person, effectively, for the first year. And then I started getting all of this chaos, and it was, when I got here, it was beautiful chaos, functional, beautiful chaos. And it was working, but it was chaos. And it was mostly because the people who predated me here were wearing 100 hats at a time, and everybody was doing a whole bunch of different things. And so when I got here, I was able to wear one hat, the Wizard Academy hat, and that allowed me to give it all my focus, and it allowed me to take all of these different things that people had been doing or trying to do or knew needed to happen and make them all come together, and it sort of turned Wizard Academy into a functional environment. Then we started making more money, and then we were able to hire people, and I got help. But from 2013 when I got here to 2018, 16, 17, whenever I hired, anyway, no, even more recently, post-COVID, I realized my mindset for this place has been bootstrap entrepreneur. Everybody wears all the hats. Let's get this thing done. Yeah, go team. But in the meantime, we've grown up. We'd gotten bigger. We had more staff. There were more people involved in every decision. There were more things happening. The schedule was more busy. But I hadn't grown to lead my team. I was still trying to do it like it was just me and one other guy, and we were figuring this shit out. I had been treating people as helpers instead of giving them ownership and communication and letting them have the power and the authority to just make executive decisions and get shit done. And to do that, you have to have good communication and clearly defined job roles. And so Pegeen said, I think, Daniel, what you need to do is implement the basics of communication that you guys have not done, team communication, and you guys need to sit down and clarify job roles and expectations very clearly. And I went, oh yeah, you're right. I do need to do that. And so I did. It took about 3 months to implement those things. I had to have some heart-to-hearts with the team. And everybody was fine because I told them what I told you. I think this is a me problem and I haven't done a good job of leading. And when we finished implementing all those things, that year at Wizard Academy was the highest income year we had ever had in the history of Wizard Academy. And the next year was up 40%, and the next year we were up 38%. Holy. Every once in a while, we get super busy here, and I find about every 6-7 months, like clockwork, I start feeling again like, what is everybody doing? Are we all doing what we're supposed to be? Are people dropping balls? How come shit's not happening? But now, instead of freaking out and having meetings with my employees, I sit down and think, Daniel, where are you not communicating? And where are there muddy boundaries about what's supposed to be happening? And when I start looking at things, I realize very quickly that most of my emotions are coming from a lack of clear expectation and lack of communication and lack of letting go and giving people authority to do things. And then we fix it and we keep moving forward. And it's working like a charm, and I share that because I really hope that it works for you. Our communication on the Wizard Academy side has never been better than it has been the last couple of years. The morale on the employee side right now is the highest it's ever been as long as I've been here in 12 and a half years. And we're still going. Learn from my mistakes. Don't do your own. If you have people who are trustworthy, hardworking, and you are still running into problems about things getting done, accomplished, and balls being dropped, you may not have a people problem. You might have a leadership problem. I'm really glad you're here. Cheers. If you want to avoid a whiskey publishing leadership communications fiasco with the Whiskey Vault, like and subscribe, and you'll be always communicated with.